I swear, if that smug bastard had said one more word, I would have cracked his jaw in a way he'd never smile again. We were at a dinner I didn't even want. My wife had called it a serious talk. I thought maybe she finally wanted to fix things. Instead, I walked into an ambush with candles and wine. There he was, already seated, Chase Donovan, my wife's colleague, tight black shirt like he was auditioning for a protein powder commercial. Smirk plastered on his face like he owned the place, and there was Ashley, my wife, laughing too loud at his dumb jokes, her hand way too close to his thigh. She waved me over sweetly, like I'd been summoned. "Logan, this is Chase. You've heard me mention him from work." Oh, I'd heard too often. The mentor, the inspiration, the guy who just gets me. That guy. I sat down, forced a smile, but under the table, my fists were already balled tight. Then he leaned forward, eyes locked on mine like we were in some dusty saloon at high noon. His voice was smooth, rehearsed. "I'll make this simple. You've got two options. Leave quietly, or face me like a man." Ashley didn't flinch. She smiled, and that's when I realized something important. This wasn't the start of an affair. This was curtain call. She had played the whole show behind my back, and now she wanted me to sit front row for the finale. I didn't rage, not yet. Rage is sloppy. I just looked him dead in the eye and said, "You want your teeth whole, or in pieces." That line shut his smirk off for the first time all night, but trust me, this was just the beginning. They dragged me out of that restaurant like I was some lunatic who couldn't handle rejection. Plates smashed, wine splattered, Chase wheezing through his perfect teeth, Ashley shrieking, "Logan, stop, you're embarrassing me." Embarrassing her. After she'd invited me to dinner just to parade her new boy toy in front of me, like I was a museum exhibit called The Obsolete Husband. Outside, the cold hit me, the kind of air that burns your lungs, makes you feel alive even when everything else inside you is going numb. I stood there, staring at the door as it shut behind me. Silence, not rage, not grief, just silence. That's when I knew. She didn't just trip and fall into this. She'd planned it. She wanted me humiliated, wanted to see if I'd break. When I got home, the house felt wrong. Not messy, not rearranged, just off. Her perfume still lingered in the hallway. But there was another scent, musky, male, arrogant. I walked straight into our bedroom. Bed, made like a hotel cornerfold. She never made the bed like that. Not once. I sat down, hands still raw from the scuffle, and started looking. Not because I was suspicious anymore. No, suspicion was dead. I needed the truth in my hands. Something tangible I could slam down like an ace on the table. Her vanity was the jackpot. She never locked her tablet. I trusted her too much for that. She was wrong. The first swipe nearly caved my chest in. A mirror selfie of her, barely dressed, in some hotel bathroom. Date stamped last weekend. She'd told me she was at her friend Lacey's baby shower in Sacramento. Another swipe. There he was, Chase, shirtless in the background, brushing his teeth. My breathing went shallow, my eyes burned. And then came the videos. His voice calling her my little secret. Her giggling like a teenager. One message had her saying, "He still thinks we're in a rough patch. Poor baby. Poor baby." That one cut deeper than any punch I threw earlier. I just sat there in the dark, scrolling through months of lies. Every late night meeting, every girls' night, every cold shoulder. They'd all been rehearsals for the final performance I'd witnessed tonight. And then my phone buzzed. A text from her. "You didn't have to do that. You embarrassed yourself." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Let's talk." Just blame, just deflection. And that, my friend, was the exact second the switch flipped. This wasn't heartbreak. This was chess. And I was done playing the pawn. Ashley came home the next morning like nothing happened. Hair tied up, scrolling her phone, sipping coffee. She didn't even glance at me, sitting at the dining table. Finally, she looked up. "What?" she asked, like I was the one being strange. I slid her tablet across the table. Opened right on the messages. Her fingers froze mid. She stared at the screen for a long moment, then slowly lifted her eyes to mine. And what do you think came out of her mouth? "Why were you snooping through my stuff?" Not, "I'm sorry." Not even denial. Just pure, uncut deflection. I leaned forward. My voice was calm, almost too calm. "You lied to me. You mocked me. You gaslit me for months." She crossed her arms, exhaling through her nose like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "You're being dramatic. Chase actually cares about me. He listens. He makes me feel alive. You," she waved her hand in the air, "you're predictable, boring, predictable, boring." I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just smiled. Because when your enemy thinks you're boring, that's the best cover you can get. "I see," I said simply, and stood up from the table. Her eyes narrowed. She wanted a fight, wanted tears, wanted me to beg. Instead, I walked down the hall, into the home office and shut the door behind me. That's where my little black folder lived. The one I started months ago, back when the late nights began and her excuses didn't add up. At first it was just a safety net, a receipt here, a screenshot there. But now, it was artillery. Bank statements with hotel charges under her name. Screenshots of messages synced quietly to the family cloud. A video clip from the doorbell cam, Timestamped, showing Chase sneaking out at 2 a.m. when I was on a work trip. I stacked it all neatly, labeled, dated, each piece like a loaded round. From the kitchen, I could hear her pacing, muttering, calling someone I'd bet my last dollar it was him. She thought she had the upper hand, thought I was sulking. But what she didn't know was that I wasn't sad, I wasn't broken. I was preparing because men like me don't crumble. We collect, we plan, and when we strike clean. Ashley underestimated me. That much was obvious from the moment she walked through the front door that night, kicked off her heels, and called out like nothing had happened. "Logan, you home?" I didn't answer. I was in the study, sorting through my little black folder, laying everything out on the desk like I was building a case file, which, to be fair, I was. She strolled in a minute later, still in her business clothes, tossing her purse onto the armchair. "You're really giving me the silent treatment." She sighed, already annoyed. I didn't look up, I just slid a stack of papers across the desk toward her hotel invoices. Same hotel, different weekends, different names on the receipts. Hers and his. Her smirk faltered, just for a second, but she recovered quick. "Oh my God, Logan, you're actually digging through receipts now. This is embarrassing. You sound like one of those paranoid husbands on daytime talk shows." I finally met her eyes. Levo, no, I said. I sound like a man who doesn't like being played for a fool? She opened her mouth to fire back, but I raised a hand, not aggressively, just enough to stop her. "Before you say another word, Ashley, remember this. I don't yell, I don't throw tantrums. I build, I prepare, and I finish what I start." That froze her. She blinked, maybe realizing for the first time that she didn't actually know me as well as she thought. "You're making this bigger than it is." She tried, voice softening like she was talking to a child. "Chase and I, we just what?" I interrupted. "Took a little vacation from honesty. Spent months practicing for that dinner scene last night. Or maybe you just got tired of pretending to respect the man paying your mortgage." Her jaw tightened. That's when I knew I'd hit the nerve. The next few days, I let her think she was still in control. That was the fun part. I went about my routine as if nothing had happened: work, gym, mowing the lawn on Saturday morning. Predictable, boring, just the way she liked to describe me. But behind the curtain, I was setting dominoes. Step 1, the bank. I moved our joint funds into a separate account under my name only. Legally airtight, already cleared by my lawyer. She wouldn't notice right away. Ashley rarely checked balances unless she was buying something shiny and unnecessary. Step 2, the house. I pulled the deed from the safe, double-checked the ownership details, and made sure her name wasn't anywhere near the mortgage refinance I'd done last year. Funny how she never paid attention to paperwork. Step 3, Chase. I hired a buddy of mine, private investigator, ex-cop with a nose for dirt. Gave him a simple instruction: follow him. Document everything, every deal, every meeting, every side hustle. I didn't need to know if Chase was a snake. I needed to know what kind of snake. By the third night, Ashley started to notice I wasn't biting. At dinner, she tried the sweet routine, sliding her hand across the table, batting her lashes. "Logan, can we please stop this? You're acting like we're enemies." I set my fork down. "Aren't we?" That shut her up for a while. Later, she switched tactics: anger. "You're being ridiculous. You think you're so much better than me, don't you? You think just because you're calm and quiet, you're winning something. You're not, you're just boring. A placeholder." Chase actually makes me feel alive. There it was, again, placeholder, like I was the temp hire, keeping the seat warm until the real star showed up. I smiled. "Then I suppose you should hold on to him tight." She frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," I said evenly, "you'll find out soon enough." The turning point came the following week. She walked into the kitchen one evening, holding a glass of wine, and said casually, "So, I talked to a lawyer today." I didn't flinch. Good, saves me the trouble. Her glass froze midair. She hadn't expected that. You what?" "I already filed," I said, sipping my coffee. "Clean, split. Papers are ready. And don't worry, didn't ask for spousal support. I wouldn't insult myself that way." Her face strained of color. "You what? Without telling me? Why would I tell you?" I shrugged. "You stopped being my partner the second you handed your loyalty to him. I'm just catching up." For once, Ashley didn't have a quick comeback. She stood there, wine trembling in her hand, staring at me like she was trying to solve a puzzle she didn't even know she'd been playing. And here's the best part. I leaned back in my chair, met her eyes, and smiled. "Don't worry, the end won't be messy. It'll just be unexpected." She swallowed hard. That was the first crack. The first time she realized the man she thought was predictable might not be predictable at all. That night, when she finally went to bed, I sat, alone in the office, organizing the files one more time. Chase's name was already in 3 separate folders. Ashley's in 4. The oak box I'd carved years ago sat open on the desk, empty no longer. Inside were flash drives neatly labeled, holding every shred of proof. A fair times bank, transfers, phone records, even a little video from the hotel hallway camera, courtesy of my pie friend. I closed the lid softly, running my hand over the smooth wood. This wasn't a box of pain anymore. This was justice, concentrated and waiting. Ashley thought she was running the show, thought I was some dull, predictable man she could walk all over while she played dress-up with her protein powder prince. But here's what she never understood. Boring men don't get blindsided. Boring men watch. Boring men prepare. And when the moment's right, boring men end the game in one move. There's something delicious about silence. Ashley thought my silence meant surrender. She thought me sitting at the kitchen table every night with my coffee and my laptop open meant I was sulking, licking my wounds. She thought I was predictable, and she was right until the moment she realized single quotes T. It started with the money. One Thursday morning. She went to pay for a salon visit with her joint debit card. Declined. She tried again. Declined. I imagine the panic rose in her throat like bad champagne. By the time she stormed into the house that afternoon, I was already waiting. Logan, she barked, slamming her purse on the counter. What the hell happened to our account? I didn't even look up from my laptop. Our account, you mean, the one you occasionally dipped into for hotel weekends with Chase? Yeah, that one's empty. Her mouth fell open. What did you do? I closed the laptop slowly. Deliberately, I moved it to my name, legally clean. Checked with the lawyer, every dollar accounted for. You can't just, I can, I interrupted. And I did, because I don't finance affairs. Not my thing. Her face turned red, then pale, then red again. She tried to rally. You think this scares me? You think money is leverage? I have Chase now. I leaned back in my chair and smiled. Then I hope he has deep pockets. Because you're going to need them. Step 2 was the house. Ashley always thought of it as her house. She decorated it, she hosted in it, she posted filtered photos of it on Instagram with captions like blessed, but she never actually read the paperwork. One Friday night, I laid the deed on the kitchen table while she poured herself a glass of wine. You ever really look at this? I asked. She squinted. What am I supposed to be looking at? Your name, I said, tapping the page. Her eyes scanned the text. Once, twice, a third time, and the blood drained from her face. Where's my name? She whispered. Not there, I said evenly. Never was. When I refinanced last year, I kept it clean. My name only. You signed off without even reading. She slammed the wine glass down so hard it cracked. You tricked me. No, I said calmly. You ignored me. You were too busy texting your boyfriend to notice what you were signing. That's not a trick. That's negligence. She stared at me like she didn't recognize the man in front of her. Maybe she didn't. Step 3. Chase. My pie delivered the goods in a manila envelope so thick it looked like a novel. Turns out, the golden boy wasn't so golden. He'd been borrowing company funds at his contracting business. A few little side hustles he didn't report to the IRS. And let's just say he had a weakness for gambling that left a trail of IOUs nastier than any lipstick on a collar. That night, Ashley strutted into the living room, smug again. Chase says you're bluffing, she announced. I smiled, slid the envelope across the coffee table. Then tell him to read this bedtime story. She didn't touch it, just glared at me. You're pathetic. You think you're scaring me with paperwork. Chase loves me. That's all that matters, I chuckled. Ashley, you've built your whole life on things that look good in photos but collapse in reality. Do you really think he's going to hold on when the walls start caving in? Love doesn't erase felony charges. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The flicker of doubt in her eyes said, enough. By the third week, the cracks were showing. She started getting sloppy, coming home late without excuses. Drinking more, snapping at little things. One night she shouted across the kitchen, "Why are you doing this? Why not just leave me and move on?" I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Because I don't believe in clean getaways. You wanted to humiliate me, Ashley. You wanted an audience while you burned it down. That's fine. But now the curtain's mine, and you're the one standing in the spotlight. Her lip trembled for just a second before she covered it with a smirk. You think you're clever, but you'll slip up. You always do. No, I said quietly. I don't. That's what terrifies you. The real turning point came on a Tuesday morning. She strutted into the kitchen, phone in hand, grinning like she'd won a lottery I didn't know about. Guess what? She sang. Chase and I are getting a place together. I sipped my coffee. Congratulations. Who's paying for it? Her grin faltered. What do you mean? Does Chase know about his gambling debts? His missing funds? The IRS breathing down his neck? Or does he think you're moving into a condo with a clean slate? She froze. I set the mug down gently, because I've got the paperwork ready to send to his investors. His boss, his landlord. Anyone, really, unless you'd like to tell him yourself. Her face crumpled like paper in a fist. She tried to speak, but nothing came out. For the first time in weeks, she wasn't smug, she wasn't angry, she was afraid, and I just sat there, calm as ever, watching her unravel. That night, when she went upstairs early to quiet, to shake and I stayed in the office. The oak box sat on my desk, its brass hinges gleaming under the lamp. Inside, the flash drives waited, lined up like soldiers. Every receipt, every message, every video, Chase's debts, Ashley's betrayal, all cataloged, encrypted, ready, and, as I stared at that box, I realized something. She thought revenge was loud, dramatic, explosive, but she didn't understand men like me. Revenge, real revenge, is quiet, slow, precise. It's the silence before the trap snaps shut, and Ashley had just stepped into the center. The first time Ashley cried, it almost caught me off guard. Not the crocodile tears she used to deploy when a traffic cop pulled her over. Not the fake sniffles she practiced in the mirror before calling her mother for sympathy. No, this was different. This was the raw, ugly sound of a woman realizing the walls weren't just closing in. They were already touching her shoulders. It was a Tuesday night. She came home later than usual, smelling like cheap champagne and perfume that wasn't hers. She staggered into the living room, expecting me to be asleep. But there I was, sitting in the armchair with the lamp on, reading the folder again, her eyes narrowed, still playing detective, still pretending it's not real. I asked, not even looking up. She dropped her purse on the couch and crossed her arms. You know what, Logan? You've changed. You used to be quiet, boring, predictable. Now you're just pathetic. Clinging to receipts and screenshots like a bitter ex, I closed the folder and leaned forward, elbows on my knees. Funny thing about being boring, Ashley, it makes people underestimate you. You thought I'd crumble. You thought I'd beg. But here's the truth. I don't beg. I build. Her lips parted, but no words came. For the first time, I saw a flicker of fear behind the mask. The next morning, she woke up to a surprise. Her Range Rover, the one she loved to pose with for Instagram stories, the one she said made her feel powerful, was gone. Not stolen, just repossessed. See, she thought I was paying the lease. She thought the automatic payments were my responsibility. They weren't till I canceled them 2 weeks earlier. The screech she let out when she saw the empty driveway could have shattered glass. Logan, she shrieked, storming into the kitchen where I was calmly buttering toast. Where's my car? Your car? I asked, chewing slowly. Correction, the bank's car. They just came to pick it up. You canceled the payments. Of course I did. Why would I pay for a vehicle you mostly used to visit hotels with another man? Her face twisted. You petty, small, boring little man. You think this makes you powerful. You think I need a car to leave you. I shrugged. I don't think you need a car to leave. I just think you'll look funny taking selfies on the bus. Her jaw dropped, and then for the first time her voice cracked. You can't do this to me. You can't take everything away. I leaned back in my chair, folded my arms, and looked her dead in the eye. Watch me. That's when the calls started. First from Chase, he left a voicemail that sounded less like a confident contractor and more like a panicked kid. Logan, listen, we don't need to drag everyone into this. All right, you don't want to ruin my reputation. I don't want to make this ugly. Let's be men about it. Okay, I didn't call him back. Instead, I forwarded his gambling debts to his business partner. By the next day, Chase was pulled off a big project. Ashley stormed in, slamming the door. What did you do to him? Nothing, I said with a smile. Chase's sins caught up with him. Just like yours. She actually cried then. Real tears. Sat at the kitchen table, face in her hands, muttering, this isn't fair. This isn't fair. I slid a box of tissues across the table. Life isn't fair, Ashley, but it is consistent. You reap what you sow. By the weekend, the cracks weren't just showing. They were gaping. Her friends, our so-called couple friends, started pulling away. Why? Because I'd sent them just enough proof to make it awkward. Screenshots, a receipt here, a photo there. Nothing explicit, just enough for them to see Ashley wasn't the victim she pretended to be. When she tried to host her usual Friday wine night, only one person showed up and, even she left early. I watched from the office as Ashley sat alone at the kitchen island, staring at a bottle of Merlot like it might answer her problems. She finally muttered under her breath, "You're destroying me." I closed my laptop and stood in the doorway. No, Ashley, you destroyed yourself. I'm just holding up the mirror. The real breaking point came 2 nights later. She barged into the office, eyes bloodshot, hair messy, shaking with rage. What do you want from me? She screamed. I stayed calm. Justice, she laughed. A hollow broken sound. Justice. Don't play saint. You want revenge. You want to see me crawl. I stood, walked around the desk, and stopped just inches. From her my voice was low, steady. Ashley, I don't need you to crawl. I need you to realize you married the wrong man to betray. You picked someone you thought was boring, forgettable, replaceable. But I'm not. Her lip trembled. For a second, I thought she might swing at me. Instead, she broke. The tears came, heavy and ugly. She crumpled into the armchair, muttering, I didn't think you had it in you. I crouched down so we were eye level. That's the thing about men like me. We don't roar. We don't rant, we don't broadcast, we wait. And then we end it all in silence. She covered her face with her hands. And for the first time since this all began, I saw it. She wasn't angry anymore. She was scared. That night, after she went to bed, I sat in the office staring at the oak box again. Inside, the flash drives gleamed under the lamplight. Everything was ready, every move catalogued, every trap set. Ashley thought I'd stop here. That bankrupting her pride and gutting her little romance was enough, but she still didn't understand. This wasn't the end game, it was only the middle. And the cruelest part, she wouldn't see the ending coming. Not until it was already too late. By now, Ashley was unraveling. The car gone, the friends gone, Chase's halo slipping by the hour. She tried patching the holes in her sinking ship with the same arrogance she'd always used. But arrogance doesn't float, it sinks fast. One morning, she came storming down the stairs, phone in hand. "You emailed my boss." I raised an eyebrow. Define emailed. Her voice cracked. "You sent him photos, me and Chase. Do you realize what this does to my career?" I took a sip of coffee. "A career built on fake smiles and open houses. You'll bounce back. Maybe not in this city, maybe not under your name, but somewhere, sure." She slammed her phone on the counter, eyes blazing. "You're ruining my life." I leaned forward, calm as ever. "No, Ashley. I'm simply removing the parts you stole from mine." And that was the day she stopped pretending she was in control. By the following week, Ashley was living like a ghost. Her friends avoided her. Her boss quietly suggested a leave of absence. And Chase, he'd gone radio silent. She called him over and over, pacing the kitchen in her robe, muttering, pick up, pick up." Finally, voicemail. She hurled the phone at the wall. I watched from the hallway, arms crossed. Guess Prince Charming forgot to charge his horse. "Shut up," she screamed. Her voice cracked again. That night, she sat across from me at dinner, hollow, chewing without tasting. Finally, she whispered, "What do you want from me?" I set my fork down. "I want you to understand the difference between loyalty and convenience. I was loyal. He was convenient. You chose wrong." She looked at me, then really looked at me, and I swear, in her eyes, I wasn't Logan the husband anymore. I was something colder, something inevitable. The cruelest trick isn't destruction, it's removal. So I started removing Ashley piece by piece from the world she thought she owned. First, the bank froze her credit cards. Not my doing, just a side effect of her name being flagged during the divorce proceedings. Then her phone plan stopped, canceled under the joint account. One morning, her gym keycard wouldn't scan. Another, her health insurance app locked her out. Every safety net she leaned on, gone. One night, she stood in the kitchen, trembling, whispering, "You're erasing me." I smiled. Exactly. She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing into her hands, and I didn't comfort her, not this time, because ghosts don't need comfort. They need closure. The end came quietly, just like I promised. Ashley woke one morning to find a single envelope on the kitchen table. No screaming, no gloating. Just a plain manila envelope with her name written neatly across the front. She opened it. Inside was everything. Copies of the affair timeline, Chase's debt records, screenshots, receipts, videos, a signed divorce decree already filed, and at the bottom, a single note in my handwriting. "You once called me a placeholder. Placeholders don't leave quietly, they erase the whole page. Congratulations, Ashley, you're free. But you'll find that freedom is very lonely when you've burned every bridge on the way out." She stared at it, hands trembling. Finally, she whispered, "You destroyed me." I stood in the doorway. Collected. "No, Ashley. I just let you destroy yourself. I just made sure everyone was watching." Then I turned, picked up my coat, and walked out. No shouting, no violence, no drama, just silence. And that silence, that was my revenge. Because Ashley expected fire and fury. She expected a man broken. What she got was something worse, being erased, piece by piece, until nothing of her former life remained. And the cruelest part, she'll never see me again. Not in court, not in life, not anywhere. To her, I'll be the ghost she can't bury. The shadow that reminds her what happens when you betray a man who never needed a second chance. Only evidence. Game over.